Supertalk Mississippi media production.
CorinthNissan.com, a large selection of vehicles, $20,000 or under. Don't miss their 543 deal. That's $5,000 off Muranos, $4,000 off Altimas, or $3,000 off the Nissan Kicks. CorinthNissan.com.
Welcome to Mississippi Magic, from Haystacks to Hollywood. You know, the incredible museums in our state verify this. There's something real about Mississippi Magic. Its authenticity is proven out in the voluminous pages of history. So much so that the state the national media likes to beat up on puts a lot of other states to shame by filling those pages of history with memorable people who have enriched lives across the world. So it is with a little boy named Tommy, who was born and raised in this magical Mississippi land. We'll take you on that incredible journey from Haystacks to Hollywood right after this from our sponsor, a family-owned Mississippi company that's built their implement business on exceptional service over 50 years. One customer at a time. We are proud to have Divinity Equipment in Jackson and Highway 51 North in Madison, presenting Mississippi Magic. I sat down with Jonathan at the Madison location on 51 North the other day. We talked about the journey over the years of both Divinity Equipment and the industry leader Kubota. Both of those names now at the top of the list in providing quality and service. Look, if you're in the market for anything from an excavator to tractor, top-of-the-line quality with state-of-the-art innovation and service, you can't do better than my friends at Divinity Equipment and Kubota. And I've got to mention that right now you can make a little Mississippi magic happen yourself by turning that dull mowing chore into a comfort cruise with very special prices from now through the end of June on those incredible zero-turn Kubota mowers. Come see us. Divinity Equipment, Highway 51 North in Madison and Jackson. Great people, great products. When he was just 10 years old, little Tommy proclaimed to his mom and dad that he had found the Lord. And in that born-again conversation, God was all in on the idea of him going to Hollywood. In all the respect and love for God, his parents suggested little Tommy do some growing up and finish his education before answering God's call to the bright lights of Hollywood. So that's exactly what Tommy did. He finished his Mississippi high school education, then went on to Ole Miss, and then graduate school at Southern Miss. But he continued hearing God's words to go west, young man, go west. So once out of his Mississippi nest, he tested his wings and landed out west. But just not far enough. Tommy landed behind a desk teaching kids in an Oklahoma classroom. All the while, that call from God was coming in louder and louder, and no wonder. You see, Hollywood was a lot closer to Oklahoma than a small town in Mississippi. So in his early 20s, Tommy found himself in a new land of dreams, and he said thanks to his mom and dad, and especially to God, by attending the First Baptist Church of Beverly Hills, California. And just like everything else he did in life, Tommy's Mississippi work ethic began to pay off when he made friends with an actress named Lorene, who took him under her wings and decided he had talent, but he needed a bit of coaching. Soon after, with Lorene's help, Tommy went from little theater to bit parts in some popular TV shows. Now, they weren't that big. They didn't pay that much money, but in the eyes of his parents and his friends back home in Mississippi, little Tommy was a star. That said, reality in Hollywood is that the only way to live on bit parts every once in a while is to work 3 other jobs. So Tommy hit the street auditioning for as many permanent acting jobs as possible, and he worked hard. Plus, his Mississippi accent and honesty won him friends along the way, including one of Hollywood's biggest producers. Those are the friends to have. And so it was on a late afternoon in June, the producer's wife called Tommy, invited him to try out for a new sitcom that was going to be pitched to CBS. Delighted and excited, Tommy said yes. However, that excitement was dampened a bit when he showed up. One of over 400 actors in a long line to audition for a spec show in the 1960s that may or may not even make it to the airwaves. But Tommy got in line just the same. After a grueling marathon session, it was Tommy's turn. One question that was posed to him by the producer was, and it caught him off guard, the question was, Tommy, can you milk a cow? Excuse me, said Tommy. Was that a reference to his Mississippi accent? Producer said, no. In this one scene on the farm, we have a cow that has to be milked. We've gone through most of the tryouts, and apparently milking a cow is more difficult than we thought. Tommy laughed and said, of course I know how to milk a cow. I grew up on my grandfather's farm in Mississippi. Tommy got the part in a possible new TV show that was supposed to air as a test run sometimes in the future when the big Hollywood suits made that decision. Wait. During the meantime, Tommy calls home in Mississippi and filled them in on the part he was going to be playing on this new TV show that may or may not air. And nonetheless, everybody back home in Mississippi was proud of little Tommy. Well, fast forward a bit, and the new show did air. It was picked up. Not only that, Tommy became one of the most popular actors on the show, week after week. A show that in its debut season was rated 11th, not bad. And the next season, number 6 most watched show on television. As a matter of fact, through its entire run from 1965 to 1971, Tommy's talent kept the sitcom in the top 20. And as television history has recorded, the ratings were still good in 1971, as well as a lot of other great family-oriented sitcoms, when they all suffered the wrath of some city-fied suits at CBS, who committed what has become known as the rural purge, meaning that even though CBS ratings were good, the countrified shows were just not sophisticated enough for the image they wanted going forward. Tommy took it all in stride. He had already achieved more than he ever expected, all with the help of his faith in God and his family in Mississippi. The good news was that Tommy had become good at acting. The bad news was he played his roles so well, Tommy was typecast in the minds of tens of millions of viewers, and it became impossible to escape the character. The young man from Mississippi went on to reprise the role in the same sitcom with some of the same characters for a short while, as well as to star in a number of TV and movies, even after making the transition back to Mississippi. And I might mention his very own farm. Through all of that, he never lost faith. Even when his big moment came to advance his financial fortunes and fame with a major endorsement deal that was worked out by his agent. The story is told that the agent worked out a deal for him to star in a beer commercial. Tommy turned it down. It angered his agent so much that he dropped Tommy as a client. The reason he said he couldn't do a beer commercial is because from the time God called him to Hollywood, all the way back to a Mississippi farm, every spare minute that he wasn't acting, he was touring the country giving praise to God. In his mind, just didn't feel right doing a commercial for beer and at the same time standing on a stage talking about his faith. And it wasn't like no one would notice. After all, 3 times he shared the stage with another man who heard God's calling. His name, Billy Graham. And on a personal side note here, even though he might not even remember this, on one vacation day many, many years ago, taken by yours truly, Thomas, fellow born and raised Mississippian, was my guest host on The Gallo Show and did an exceptional job. And so forevermore in TV history, and even today in reruns across the world, many of them in different languages. The 10-year-old boy from a farm in Mississippi who told his parents that God was calling him to Hollywood answered the call to God in television history. You may remember little Tommy as Thomas William Lester. Yes, the ever-optimistic Eb Dawson, farmhand to Oliver Wendell Douglas on the iconic sitcom called Green Acres.
Morning, Eleanor. You know what today is, Eleanor? This is the day Miss Douglas is supposed to decide whether or not she's going to stay on the farm or go back to New York.
Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
Just more proof for the generations to come that there is truly something special in the Magnolia State called Mississippi Magic.
A Supertalk Mississippi media production.